Today on This Week in Iowa, we're talking proposals about sports betting. Then a conversation with Congressman Steve King, what he's been up to in Washington lately. And we sit down with newly elected Congresswoman Cindy Axne, what she's pushing for in Congress. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here on This Week in Iowa. I'm Sabrina Ahmed. Sports betting is closer to becoming legal in Iowa, and we now have a better idea of how it would work. Casinos would run it. It would be regulated by the Racing and Gaming Commission. Casinos would get licenses from them for a fee to the state. Daily fantasy would be included. The difference between what's going through the two chambers is how much it would be taxed. Of course, we'll keep you posted on what happens. In more State House news, Iowans caught with marijuana for the first time could face a lighter penalty. Right now, if you're caught with any amount of pot, you face a serious misdemeanor charge, up to 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine. But the Senate proposal would downgrade that to a simple misdemeanor if the offender has less than 5 grams, meaning no more than 6 months in jail and a $625 fine. Sponsors say first-time offenders deserve a second chance.
I think this is a good start to allowing people to learn from their lesson, but not ruining them from a workforce perspective, or, like I said, housing or scholarships.
The bill is a good bill. It recognizes the fact that it still is a crime and will be a crime, but recognizes that there are different amounts out there.
The legislation passed subcommittee this week. Similar proposals have stalled in the State House in the past. Now, legislation to make it mandatory for all employers to use the federal E-Verify system is advancing in the State House. The bill also makes it illegal for a company to employ an illegal alien. Under this proposal, if a business is found to be violating this, they would lose all state permits and licenses. This passed out of a Senate subcommittee this week. And this week, Governor Kim Reynolds announced that she will not appeal a court ruling that says her fetal heartbeat law is unconstitutional.
I didn't see any path forward to either appealing the case to a higher court or ultimately it ever making its way to the United States Supreme Court. So I saw no pathway forward and therefore made the decision based on that. But it wasn't a decision that I made lightly, but because of the Supreme Court ruling, I didn't see a path forward.
There are multiple pieces of pro-life legislation making their way through the process this session, including an amendment that says abortions are not a constitutional right. The governor has voiced her support of that legislation. We'll take a short break, but we sit down with Congressman Steve King coming up next.
This station strives to provide quality children's programming in accordance with the requirements set by the Federal Communications Commission and by the Children's Television Act of 1990. WOI prepares a quarterly report which details our commitment to children's television. We invite the public to inspect these reports and comment on our efforts to provide for the educational and informational needs of the children in our community. These reports are available for public inspection at weareiowa.com.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain or knee pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace or knee brace covered by Medicare at little to absolutely no cost to you. Will you qualify for a Medicare-covered back brace or knee brace? There's only one way to find out.
Call the Back and Knee Brace Center at 1-800-280-4260.
Broadway's best party is turning up the volume to 10.
I wanna rock!
The Rock of Ages 10th Anniversary Tour is blazing across North America. Rock of Ages is insanely fun and impossible to resist, featuring the music of hit bands such as Poison, Pat Benatar, REO Speedwagon, and more. Rock of Ages is the most remarkable Broadway experience ever.
I wanna rock!
Get your tickets today at dmpa.org.
From the capital city, you're watching This Week in Iowa with Sabrina Ahmed, getting to the heart of what's happening in Iowa politics.
Welcome back, everyone. We are joined now by Congressman Steve King of the 4th Congressional District. Congressman King, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me here, Sabrina.
To the show. So this has been an interesting couple months for you. First, let's start with what happened with the New York Times and how they quoted you. This, I think, every Iowan has probably heard about. So I just would like to take a full screen of what the New York Times said is white nationalist, white supremacist, Western civilization. How did that language become so offensive? That is what the New York Times has put out in their newspaper. But talk to me about how you say that's a misrepresentation of what you said.
Well, it is a misquote, and it's clearly a misquote for a number of reasons. And I've made that point on the floor of the House of Representatives. I delivered it the way, if I even said those words, it was fed to me by the question, which the New York Times won't even release the question. There is no tape. There's no question. That's the leading question that's there that they've released. And so it just comes down to this. I don't speak in those terms. I don't use the terms that describe those odious ideologies, but I have often spoken in defense of Western civilization. So we ran a LexisNexis search on this and said, how many times have I used white supremacy or white nationalism? And since the year 2000, I'm quoted 0 times. But Western civilization, I'm quoted 276 times. So you want to keep score on who's right. It's Steve King, 276, New York Times, 0 and 0.
Senator Ernst, there's been quite a bit of fallout from this quote that was put into the New York Times. So Senator Ernst did respond to what was said, and we'd like to take a listen to that right now.
And I have pushed back against those comments, will not support them. I rebuked him heavily with these latest, just absolutely disgusting comments. Those can't continue, and we cannot be a nation divided. We have got to come together. We cannot tolerate that type of rhetoric. We cannot.
Have you talked to Senator Ernst since that happened?
She has my cell number. And I have spoken to the top leaders in the Republican Party in the past about, do you really trust the news media? And they should not by now. I surely don't, although I did an interview I should have never done. And the point is this, when you have somebody's cell number and the press tells you somebody said something, call them and ask them. That didn't happen. I didn't get that call from Joni Ernst. She's been a friend for a long time, and she owed me that phone call.
But if you have your colleagues in the Iowa delegation who no longer support you, what does that say to the work that you're doing in Congress?
That says that they're the ones that have to answer, not me. That's a misquote in the New York Times. I can't be accountable for a misquote out of the New York Times, but I am accountable if I would just say, jump on one of my colleagues and accept something as true and criticize one of my colleagues. I'm going to give them a phone call first. I'm going to sit down and talk to them. I'm going to look them in the eye. And those things didn't happen with my critics. They're leaders within the Republican Party. But we have been friends for a long time back. I like Joni Ernst. She's under a fair amount of stress these days. And so I'm going to leave it at that and let her do the answering on her comments. I can only be responsible for my own.
But regardless of what was said, you have been removed from your committee assignment. So how can you be an effective representative for Iowans if you don't sit on any committees?
Well, the committee isn't the only place where you get things done. As a matter of fact, with Nancy Pelosi as the Speaker of the House, there is no Republican agenda that's going to move out of committee any place where I have served. I've been through this with her for 4 years as Speaker. She's not changed the way she is. And so if there's ever going to be a time to not have committees, this is the best time, although I want my committees back because Democrats will use it as a cudgel over and over again. But I've gotten most of my good work done outside of the committees that I've actually served on, and I think people that look at my record know that. One of the pro-life leaders, I'm the leader in the appeal or in the repeal of Obamacare. I'm one of the strongest fiscal conservatives. I'm a strong voice for renewable fuels and for agriculture. All of those things are things that I've worked in and out of committee, and the accomplishments are there. One thing that's interesting is, of all the critics that have emerged here, nobody has said, I don't like Steve King votes, and I don't like his positions on issues. Nobody ever criticizes me on that. If you get down to this, if all you have is a misquote in the New York Times, you don't have much. And I'll say this, you have Kavanaugh, King, Cohen, Covington Catholic, and now Jesse Smollett. All of them were false stories, and all of them played to the biases of the left, and they all turned out to be false.
Congressman King, stick with us. We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back.
What happened?
happens when two of the largest Iowa-based financial institutions, both credit unions, make over $100 million a year in profits and pay no income tax? Iowa families shoulder a higher tax burden, while big credit unions enjoy a free ride. So Iowa families must pay more to fund services like education, health care, and priorities like improving Iowa's water quality. Iowa families deserve a break. Let's end big credit unions' free ride.
During the President's Day sales event at Schottenkirk Chevy Waukee, get 0% for 72 months on the all-new redesigned 2019 Silverado Crew Cab LT All-Star, up to $12,500 off, or 0% for 72 months, up to $6,500 off on select new 18 Silverado Crew Cabs, up to $11,000 off select new 19 Silverado HD Cruise. WaukeeChevy.com, up to $6,000 off, or 0% for 60, plus up to $3,000 off new 19 Equinox. Hurry in, Schottenkirk Chevy Waukee. WaukeeChevy.com. Chevy, find new roads.
At Mediacom, we took our internet to the extreme, building you a fiber-rich network that gives you the hyper-speed you need. 100% gigabit technology, 99% reliability. We wanted to bring you the best streaming, gaming, music, and more. And we're proud you voted us best internet provider, again and again and again. Thank you, Iowa, for making us your #1 choice. We're proud to take you to the extreme.
5,000 years of Chinese music and dance in one night.
Oh, the show is phenomenal.
This is a heavenly experience.
Everything in the movements and the smile and the emotion.
Absolute perfection. I just have chills, can you tell?
And the music is really extraordinary.
It sounded like it was pre-recorded. It was hard to believe it was actual live music. It was so perfect.
There's no other company in the United States that does this.
Everyone needs to see it.
For showtimes and tickets, visit shenyun.com. Coming to Des Moines Civic Center, May 7th and 8th.
You're watching This Week in Iowa, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Iowa.
Welcome back, everyone. We are continuing our conversation with Congressman Steve King. Congressman King, let's go back to the last election. That was the toughest race that you've ever had against J.D. Scholten. Were you sweating a little bit that night?
Well, not up till that point. Our polling numbers showed the end of August we're up 21 points. The first 3 days of October we're up 20. 13 days out we're up 18. And then this nearly perfect storm hit. It wasn't so much anything to do with J.D. He was just he was a quiet candidate, and he went out and he campaigned. I give him credit for that. But even though there was a story that was unloaded on us on October 25th by the Washington Post, false headline, false first paragraph, everything else written off that first paragraph, that didn't bother me until Steve Stivers, the chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee, issued a statement, a tweet. And then that seemed to, and I'll put that in quotes, validate the rest of the criticism. And so by the time we got to the close of election night, I was thinking, you know, we could be down to 5 to 7 points, and it came to be about 3.7 point victory.
Right.
A little more than the governor's margin. She was statewide. I was in the 4th district, and she didn't face near the criticism that I did. They were running ads against me from September on, hitting me really hard and calling names in that relentless way, and we were outspent 14-1 head-to-head and outspent 75-1 on independent expenditures. I don't know who's survived anything like that, so I want to thank the people in the 4th district who know me, who stepped up to vote for me and re-elect me to office, and they know that I've stood on the same principles year after year. I've never wavered, Sabrina.
After having your toughest election yet, and also now being removed from committee assignments, what does the next election look like for you? Do you think you'll continue to try to represent the people of Iowa?
I am a candidate for 2020. I don't want anybody to wonder about that. I don't walk away from a fight. I've never walked away from a fight, but I have always kept my word. There's 3 things that don't ever get, I'll say, legitimately assigned to me. Nobody really says, that knows me, ever says that I'm either stupid, lazy, or dishonest. And so some of the people on the left just started that in the last few months. But those what they can count as this, that I'm going to work hard, I'm going to work as smart as I can, and I'm going to always look people in the eye and tell them the exact objective truth. And sometimes that gets me in trouble. Sorry about that. But I think the constituents in the 4th District would a lot rather have the truth and somebody that stands on their principles than an unknown quantity.
You mentioned this a little bit, that you can work outside of committees. We have just about a minute left, so less than a minute. So tell me, how do you plan, give me some concrete examples of how you plan to be effective in Congress working for Iowans?
Well, many of the pieces that I brought through were done outside the committee that I was in. But just to give you an example, last Thursday, a couple of friends from Haiti came in and they said, our president wants to talk to you, and he wants to talk to you now. And so we sat down, dialed the president of Haiti, and he's in trouble down there. They've got demonstrations in the streets. So I set him up with the State Department and with USAID and the USDA, and along with John Bolton, and said, you guys do what you can to stabilize Haiti. That's just an example. I've built networks throughout these years all over the country, all over the state, all over the district, and whenever something can be fixed, and we at least know how to go about doing that. And I'm really proud to have had the opportunity to do so many constituent services that we do. All of my staff wants to do that. We want to help people, and we're going to continue doing it.
Congressman King, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Sabrina.
We'll take a short break, everyone. We'll be right back.
At Toyota, our President's Day sales event is calling. Roam free in the spacious Highlander. Be a star in the tech-savvy 2019 Camry with Apple CarPlay. Get a historic deal before it's history. Get 0.9% APR on a new Camry or 0% on a Highlander and drive some of the finest sedans and SUVs on the road. Find yours at buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
How you doing today?
I have a good feeling about you.
Okay, let's see what you got.
On our We Are Iowa app, we have the greatest interactive radar. Not only do you see the radar now, but you also have the interactive part where you can look at future radar.
You can't catch our newscast if you're out and about.
You can be the meteorologist, so to speak. You can zoom in on the map and let yourself know when that storm's going to arrive. Honestly, I'm not just saying this because it's ours, but it's the best radar I've ever seen.
We are Iowa and it's everything to me.
You're watching This Week in Iowa, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Iowa.
Welcome back, everyone. We are joined now by Congresswoman Cindy Axne, representing Central Iowa, the 3rd District. Thank you so much for being here, Congresswoman.
My pleasure. It's great to be back.
Okay, so let's talk about how things are going. What are your biggest challenges that you've been facing? Because you've had kind of a whirlwind of the first month or two of being a representative.
Well, that's right. There has never been a freshman class that started during a government shutdown. So there's been a lot of things that we've had to get up and running very quickly, more so than maybe members in the past, to understand how to move legislation through and find our way to and from all the different buildings in the tunnel system at the same time. So, but it's been great because I have incredible peers that have come in, freshmen, both Democrats and Republicans, who are, like me, workhorses who want to get the job done. So we've actually been moving forward a lot of really, I think, great bills that help people in my district, and of course those other representatives that helps people in their district. So we're already doing a lot of good things.
What surprises you the most about being a Congresswoman?
You know, the fact that I run in a lot of 15-minute increments. I'm somebody who notoriously wants to learn things, and as a matter of fact, the other day my dad showed me my baby book, and the statement that my mom wrote down from kindergarten. When I came home, I said, I had a great time, it was fun, but I think I should have learned something. and so you know, I think that that's one of the issues, is that now everything is pushed into such short time frames. I'm somebody who likes to be really knowledgeable from all facets on an issue. And so there's been a lot of catch-up that I do. I read a lot on the planes. I stay up late at night, reading briefs so I can be informed, because there's so much happening at such a quick pace. It's no wonder so many elected officials feel that they don't have the information they need to make good decisions, and I want to make sure that I do.
There are a lot of very progressive and bold ideas coming from some of your Democratic colleagues in Congress. Do you think that those loud and, you use the word sexy, initiatives are what are right for Iowans? And if not, or if so, then how do you balance that?
Well, that's a great question, and one of the things that I intend to push forward is my job as a representative. I'm representing the people here in our 3rd district, so it's their voices that need to be taken to Washington. And there are going to be times where I don't agree with some of the proposals that are put out there. I want to make sure that Iowans have a voice, and when we talk about some of those issues that are very progressive, listen, I agree with the outcomes we're trying to achieve to help people to have opportunity, but I believe that we can find that in a bipartisan way, and that's the way we're going to get things done.
President Trump has declared a national emergency to get funding for the border. Do you believe he has the power to do that, and do you believe that that's the route he should be taking?
Well, as a matter of fact, I was an original co-sponsor on a bill to terminate this national emergency, and that's an opportunity that we have through the National Emergencies Act in Congress to be able to do. This is not what is allowed. This is absolutely a grab at Congress's oversight of our purse strings. And so I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican president, we absolutely need to make sure that we live up to the law, that we follow our founding fathers' principles, and make sure that we are constitutionally correct in any decisions that we make. So I'm moving forward with over 220 of my House colleagues to put a termination to this emergency declaration, because it truly is not something that is an emergency and not an appropriate use of powers by the president. We should never pull that from Congress.
Congresswoman, stick with us. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with our conversation.
We're in, we're out, we're back on the road. Let's go. Here we go. Pick them up, put them down. Get on in there, get a snack, go to the bathroom. Everybody goes to the bathroom. Just make sure the cat goes to the bathroom. We are not stopping anywhere else. The youth will go to the bathroom. Wait, who's that guy? When did we pick him up? All right.
Attention. If you currently do not get health insurance through your employer, or if you do not have health insurance, or if you just got divorced or married, had a baby, moved, or lost your health insurance coverage, listen closely. You are eligible for a new health care plan using Health Insurance America. A family of 4 can make up to $97,000 a year and still qualify for a new health care plan. Get coverage for doctor visits, prescriptions, hospital, dental, and vision for as little as $25 a week, with copays as low as $0. Health insurance rates have nearly doubled in the last 3 years. Stop paying the rising cost of traditional major medical and learn how Health Insurance America is saving people thousands of dollars a year on their health care plans. Don't waste hours on the phone or on a government website. Talk to a live healthcare consultant right now.
Call 1-800-921-0724. That's 1-800-921-0724. 1-800-921-0724.
From the farm towns to the downtown to the suburbs, a common feeling lives inside of you and me. And no matter where we go, Central Iowa's in our souls, and it's what keeps us connected to this place. And I love living local. It's the only kind of air I want to breathe. We are Iowa, and it's everything to me.
Welcome back. We are continuing our discussion with Congresswoman Cindy Axne, and before break we were talking a bit about immigration reform. There's a bill at the State House level that would basically mandate that all businesses use E-Verify, and a member of the legislature said that he wanted to do this because he didn't feel like the federal government was doing anything for immigration reform. Can you respond to that? Do you believe that that needs to be handled at the state level?
Well, I would say that at a federal level we are already addressing it, and as a matter of fact it was part of our package to reopen government, and that's what was included in those 7 appropriations bills to move government forward and to support the different aspects of federal government. We certainly voted to approve money for border security, so I would say that at a federal level we are addressing the issue.
Should E-Verify be mandated for people to use across the country?
Well, you know, I want to make sure that we keep our country safe, but I also want to make sure that we continue to be an opening country to all you know, the people that can help us economically and certainly move our country forward in the right direction. So we need to look at all aspects of immigration reform and make sure we're doing the right thing.
I'd like to switch gears and talk about, you are doing these 16 county tours when you are back in Iowa. What are you hearing from your constituents now that you are a congresswoman and actually going to D.C.?
So, you know, it depends. We just finished up an 8-county rural health care tour, so that was very much focused on, are we making sure that within our rural areas we've got appropriate and affordable quality care? I'm hearing from those communities that we're struggling with many issues. The ability to be able to have a provider within a reasonable driving distance is something that we're struggling with in our rural areas. The inability to bring physicians to some of our clinics and to our hospitals in these smaller communities is very difficult. So that's one thing I'm definitely hearing is health care. Health care in our rural areas is in need of resources, and it certainly is in need of support. And then certainly making sure that we have infrastructure in place to support our rural communities. And so we'll be moving forward very quickly in the House with an infrastructure bill. And then, of course, to support our agriculture community. And I've already been able to secure an agriculture field hearing here in Iowa to raise up our profile in Congress and make sure that our ag community and it's really the communities that surround that, which are all tied to agriculture, have what they need to be successful.
On the health care level, we have heard so much about how the federal government has just kind of stopped talking. I mean, so we have not heard much about how they've just stopped talking about what's happening with healthcare. What are you hearing? What are you doing to help Iowans with their health care?
Sure. So you know, we're passing bills to assist to make sure that we help with Medicare and ensure that Medicare Part D in particular protects the people that it needs to. We are absolutely going to be moving forward with addressing health care. We had to make sure government stayed open first. That was a priority. But our first 2 objectives when it comes to health care are to lower the cost of prescription drugs and to make sure that we cover people with pre-existing conditions and that we put policy in place that never allows an opportunity to backtrack on what we have in place, because right now we're seeing coverage for pre-existing conditions being challenged in federal courts in different states, and that's unacceptable. We need to cover those people.
But will that pass the Republican-controlled Senate?
Well, I really have hope, and I think that there's absolutely opportunity to work with with the Senate and Republicans within it who understand how important it is to cover people with pre-existing conditions and lower the cost of prescription drugs. I think that these are definitely ideas that both sides agree upon. We may differ on how to get there, but if we can all agree that that's the outcome we're trying to get to, we're going to find a solution.
Congresswoman Axne, thank you so much for being here. Have a great Sunday, everyone. We'll see you next week.